Hi, I'd like to show you how I like to throw one of my favorite forms. It's called an S-shaped vase. It's a vase that has the profile of an S and was popularized in the Sung Dynasty in China. So I'm going to start with 4 pounds. When this is Leatherhard, when the piece is Leatherhard, I'm going to add a neck to it. So this will be part 1. I'm rolling it around to get rid of that little hole that I had in the bottom, and also to dome the bottom. This is about 4 pounds of clay. You want to throw this on the bat so that way you can put it back on and it'll be centered. Think about how wide you want the foot to be of the finished piece. You bring this out just a little bit wider because there'll be some trimming involved. And when you lift, you tend to push the bottom in a little bit. At least I do. I'm not going to be trimming this, so I'm leaving no more than 1/4 of an inch on the bottom. It's amazing how thin you can leave it and it'll still be fine, as long as you compress. I'm going to open, and I'm opening the floor of the pot flat. And I'm bending my hand so my fingernails are really touching. Not bringing it out any wider than this. I need to smooth and compress the bottom. Have that top edge in. I'm going to do a move that's called the claw. This is where you wrap your left hand around the piece so your fingers are on the inside, and it's really just this one finger, that tall center finger. Middle finger is the tallest one, and it sticks out the furthest, so that's why it's touching. Your thumb is on the outside, and this finger wraps around the top edge. It keeps it under control. Now what I'm going to do is grab it, push in with my sponge wrapped finger out here, and just bring it up. You get a nice first pull that way. Lots of water. Push in, grab it, and lift. Undercut. Lift again. Now make sure you don't let this area get too thin. You're going to need that support when you add another piece to the top. Push in, push out, and lift. Remember, you can stop on the way and add a little more water if you'd like. Push in. Wet the walls. I'm going to relax up in here. So I'm going to push in, push out, lift up. I'm relaxing about here to keep that area a little bit thicker. I think I have a little air bubble or a hard piece of clay up here at the top. That's why it's wiggling around. Now I've got big throwing lines in there. That means, and they're an even distance apart. That's what you want. They might be a little tighter together if you move your hands up slower than the movement of the wheel, or they might be wide apart like this one is. So let me see if I can find that air bubble. Good way to do it is just to rib it, and there it is. Bring it around so you can see it. That little bump, and that can throw you off. So all you need to do is just pop it. Now when I go over it, it'll be nice and smooth. Keeping that top edge thick. Now, got these big throwing lines. I want to get rid of them. So I'm going to take the rib, my finger on the inside, and go from the top down and remove those lines. You can also go from the bottom up. Close up the top a little bit. I only want it wide enough that I can get my hand into it. You can always bring it out. It's hard to get it to go back in. Because of that air bubble, it's a little bit off, so I'm going to just trim a little bit off the top. Get the water out from the inside. Now you can shape it. I'm going for the S-shaped vase, so I'm going to bulge out the top and leave this fairly narrow at the foot. So support the top with your left hand, put the rib in, and once it's in, then you can give it a little push, and it'll start stretching the piece out. Don't try to get it out to the ultimate shape in one pass. Take several passes. You can get a fairly nice shape just by stretching it from the inside. Remember, the inside should match what the outside looks like. But I can refine this even further by using the metal rib. So you can take the metal rib and use the straight side. If you're doing a reverse curve like up here, you'd use the round side. But out here, use the straight side and bend it. Put my thumb here and my fingers on the outside and bend it. And see what it does. It cleans off that slip and refines the shape. Now it's important that you don't just sit over the top of your pot the whole time. Lean back. Look at it from a distance. I'm leaving this pretty thick up here. Might bring it in just a little bit more. I want some clay that I can attach this next piece to. Also, this profile isn't straight. It curves. So when I put weight on here, it'll spread down to here. Now I've got the upper form ready. Now I need to just finish the bottom. And to do that, I'm going to wet it on the inside, wet it on the outside. Now it'll start wiggling, but I'm going to try to keep it under control. I'm going to really push in lift it up into the shape I want. Now, instead of chancing and putting my hand in there and messing it up, I'm going to use my sponge on a stick. This is just a regular throwing sponge with a rubber band and an old paintbrush. Chopsticks work. You could use a dowel, but just something on a large piece. I actually tied a sponge to the end of a yardstick. So now I'm going to refine this. And I'll come back and trim this a little bit more, but I want to get it pretty close to what I want for the final piece right now. Last thing I'm going to do is do a little bit of trimming. Just trimming off some of this excess clay down here. Get rid of all that extra water. Push that foot down. It's important to cut this off. Another little air bubble. I wanted to pop that while I saw it. Run the wire under it, and I could take this off and leave the bat on the wheel, or just leave it on the bat. I think I'll do that. So that's how you throw the base to my two-piece vase. Now, what I'll be doing is throwing an additional piece, a cylinder, attaching it, and then shaping it to fit this form. Thank you. Hi, I'd like to show you how to put together a two-piece vase. Now, what's different about this is I'm going to throw a cylinder and attach it to a Leatherhard piece. This piece is already Leatherhard. It holds its shape. I can put pressure on it without it collapsing. I threw it with a fairly wide lip, so I've got a really nice place to join. First thing you need to do is measure. You could use a ruler. I use calipers. So just go edge to edge, and this is what the bottom of the cylinder that I throw will be. I'm going to take this off. Now this may be too much clay. This is 3 pounds of clay. The advantage of doing it this way is you can adjust it on the piece. So you can make choices. If you throw the two pieces and then let them get Leatherhard and assemble them, all you can do is trim them. You can't change the shape. You can't make it taller. You can just make it shorter. You can't really do a lot to it. So by doing it this way, you have a lot more options. I'm going to quickly throw a cylinder. I'm going to leave the cylinder a little bit on the thicker side so I can pick it up, attach it, and then continue and finish throwing it on the piece. So that's the diameter that I want the bottom of this cylinder to be. So because I'm going to be cutting the bottom out of this, I can go right down to the wheel head. But be aware, you don't want to go right down to the wheel head all the way across. You want to leave some clay there to keep that cylinder adhered to the wheel head when you're lifting. Sometimes, if you bring it all the way out and you start lifting, it's going to come off on you. Not so much on a metal wheel, but if you're throwing on a bat, that can happen. So I'm just going to leave a little bit down at the bottom and open it up. So you see I've got a hole in there. Now, throw the cylinder. Do 2 pulls. Bring this way in because, yeah, got to bring that in a little bit further. Really push in at the bottom and get a good lift out of this. Take the slip off the outside. Get rid of those big throwing lines using the wooden rib. Trim that excess clay off. Now I'm putting the stick right against the side of the pot where it doesn't need trimming. I'm going to draw it straight down to the wheel head. This is thicker than it's going to be, but I want some clay there so I can manipulate it so it's easy to lift off, easy to move. Okay, I need to go out, maybe 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to take advantage of the rib, go inside, and stretch that bottom out just a little bit. There. A little bit more. There. Very nice. That's just the right size. Now, if you look inside, you will see I still have a bottom to it. I'm going to cut that out right now. So I'm just going to take the needle tool and go down to the wheel head. Left the top lip thicker so I can work it and choose what I want to do with it once I have it on the second piece. So now, I'm going to cut this off. I've ribbed the outside so it's dry on the outside. Just going to take both hands, pick it up, put it down, and get rid of that piece of clay. Clean the wheel head, dampen the wheel head. That's how I'm going to stick this piece on. I haven't trimmed the foot, so it's flat on the bottom right now. So this is damp. Just going to spin this around a little bit. It starts getting hard to move. Stop and center it before you can't move it anymore. So I'm going to get this centered. And remember, you want to center where you're going to be attaching. So center right up at the top. So put my finger here. It touches. Push it a little bit towards the center. Touches a little bit towards the center. That's pretty good. Okay, I want to score. This is Leatherhard. The second piece is plastic. So I want to score this. Add a little water. Score it again to develop some slip there. And get down into that Leatherhard clay. Now I can take this piece and put it on. Get it so it's centered. Now I'm going to blend the two pieces together. Probably need a little water so my hand doesn't grab. Now I'm going to just push that clay in on the inside. Now you could do this so it flows into one continuous form. I'm leaving a transition point. That's just a, aesthetic choice. Now I'm going to take and with my fingertips throw the two pieces together. Just a little bit. Just work that clay down into the other piece. Now they're joined. I've got a little water down in the bottom. You don't want to leave water in the bottom of your pots. I can't reach my hand down there, but I can use a sponge on a stick. So this is just a throwing sponge on a long stick. Get that water out of there. Okay, so now I can finish throwing this. Just straighten it up a little bit with the rib. Doing it this way, I've never had one of these come apart. Never any cracking. But remember, this can't be too dry. If this is dry and you're adding plastic clay, of course it will crack. But if it's Leatherhard, it'll be fine. So now I'm going to finish throwing it. Just selectively wetting it. I'm not pouring water in because I don't want a lot of water on the inside. Down at the bottom. So I'm going to do one more pull. Getting a little bit of a twist. Don't panic. Just release your pressure a little bit. And keep going and make sure your fingers are still wet. Because if the pot's going around and it's dry in one spot, it's going to grab and twist. Take the rib, get rid of that twist. This is pretty exaggerated. Now, I could leave it straight like that. I want to reverse that curve. So what I'm going to do is collar this a little bit. Maybe even a little bit more. There. Now, I have throwing lines down here. I'm going to keep the throwing lines up here, I think. Just refine that shape just a little bit up near the top. Really make it a little more dramatic. Chamois the lip. Make sure there's no water left inside. And that's how you add an additional piece to a Leatherhard piece. Now to take this off, I used a little water to get it on. What you do is you grab it, turn on the wheel really slowly, and off it'll come. Thank you.